We are beautifully,
Welcome to the Beautifully Melanated podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah, and I'm here as always with my lovely co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Karen.
Hi, it's Kay. Welcome to another episode. So, ladies, it's Black History Month. I'm going to get right into it. It's Black History Month. I personally dread it every year. I'm like, oh God, here we go. We're going to have a month of performative nonsense and a lot of whataboutery, because even to celebrate Black excellence is problematic. So what are your thoughts? I wanted to know, how do you feel about Black History Month? Do you celebrate? If you do, what do you do? If you don't, how come? Let's talk.
Okay, I'll start. So I don't celebrate it actively. I don't do anything particularly for Black History Month. It's every day is Black History Month for me, to be fair. I don't separate it out. I'm not quite sure why we do that, really, because I think that our excellence should be celebrated regularly. However, they have decided to give us a month. How generous. So my daughter, she is in year 9 at school, and she says, honestly, Mum, they pay homage to this Black History Month, and they put a PowerPoint slide up, which nobody listens to because the teacher doesn't give it any time whatsoever. She merely flicks through. It's a tick box exercise, and she says, I'm so annoyed. I said, well, why don't you volunteer to hold an assembly yourself? So she said, actually, that'd be a good idea. But she said, I don't know how well received it'll be, my idea. She doesn't have a particularly great relationship with her form tutor. So I said, let me send them an email. So I sent her head of house and head of pastoral support. Yeah, sent her an email and said, actually, my daughter's really interested in running or doing something for Black History Month. She's got lots of great ideas. She'd like to celebrate, talk about African kings and queens of the past. And so she said, oh, it's a great idea, So my daughter's now in negotiations. She's working with a sixth form team, and they're going to present something. So
wonderful, Karen.
Yeah, I think in that regard, that's probably a good idea. But for myself, like I say, I don't really, it's not something I sort of celebrate during the month of October. However, I did watch The Woman King at the cinema with my eldest daughter. She came home from uni, watched that. That was brilliant. I loved it. I thought, what an amazing film. I thought Viola Davis was stellar. Absolutely fantastic. I love the story. And what I loved was that they weren't, without giving away the plot, they weren't trying to be like men. They were just amazing, fearless women. I loved it. I thought it was beautifully shot, well written. It's based on a true story. And it was just really lovely to watch that with my daughter. It was just very empowering and a really good watch. So I recommend it.
I will be watching. It is on my list. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I just feel a bit like Karen just said. I feel so much pressure when it comes to Black History Month to try and kind of highlight certain Black people that we talk about all year round anyway. So like you said, Karen, I think every day to me should be a celebration of our culture. And I was just speaking to Naya earlier on about what they're doing at school for her Black History Month. She said, Mum, it's not really very good. She said, we just kind of have a couple of, a bit like not PowerPoints, but there's a couple of kind of like dry slides of a couple of people. And my daughter's 9, and she quite likes, talking about Black athletes and stuff like that. That's really, she's always been interested in Black athletes and sports. She was talking about a Black astronaut earlier, fair enough, that was in their Black History Month. But the same kind of, like, she knows about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. I feel like they roll out the same people all the time, when she's actually quite interested in, influential Black people that are doing things now, as well as people that were of the past. So we have a lot more conversations in the house about, my partner was talking to her about LeBron James the other day. And I hadn't even heard of LeBron James, but she was I googled him quick, and I learned a lot. I'm like, okay, let's have a real good look at this LeBron James that you're so fascinated by, Naya. You know, I think she was talking about Usain Bolt or something, and then I think he talked about LeBron James, and they talked about that. I've shown her a lot of cartoons because she likes on YouTube the cartoons of Black influential people. But she'll look at that. But I don't know, this month, I find if I put on something saying, look at this person, she's like, I feel she's just getting restless, like, oh. But then if we just talk about it normally, it's fine. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about Black History Month. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. Because she's young, I do make sure that in this month I am talking more so about Black people. But I do feel a pressure. And I don't like feeling a pressure. And I think children don't learn so much. It doesn't get infused into their minds when there's a pressure. I know with my daughter as well. So I'd rather just kind of, I don't know, just talk normally about Black history.
Absolutely,
So,
Sarah.
Yeah.
Have it rolled into the curriculum. Make it something that's
not just slavery.
Unusual. Exactly. I mean,
not just
come
Black
on.
people equal slaves, which is what it is put
Our
in.
history did not start with slavery.
Yeah,
but they love to teach it as if it did. Yeah. And actually, we are Black all year round, not just October.
Not just October.
So Karen's right. What's this? And that's why I feel it's performative, because when I have to stop what I'm doing to educate some of you about Black history, I'm annoyed. The information is out there. Read a book. Read a blog, read a journal. Come on. The cell phone I'm recording on right now, the technology for the cell phone was invented by a Black man. Do we know that? A nurse invented CCTV, a Black nurse. These are the things we don't talk about, or Black inventors, or Black scientists, or Black explorers. I like you said, roll out the same two people every time means you keep us stuck in a time warp almost, as if we haven't moved on from the civil rights movement. And in many ways we haven't, but I don't celebrate it. It irritates me. It irritates me, the workplace. I am the only Black person there. And there's an expectation that I'm expecting something or going to do something, neither of which is true.
Oh my God. I think at my daughter's school as well, they've got, and it kind of irritated me a little bit, they've got Black History lunch. I thought, oh God, what is this? And it annoys me really, because they haven't picked nice dishes that kids would enjoy eating. They picked this cabbage stuff. It's like, what the hell is this? They picked a cabbage dish and some other. The only good thing they picked is jollof, but I don't know how that's going to taste because I don't know who's cooking it.
Right.
But they picked this cabbage because they send the menu home, and Naya doesn't have school meals anyway. But they picked this cabbage dish. Like, why would you choose a cabbage dish for primary school children and say this is typical of the culture? Because that annoys me in itself. Well, it's like,
which culture, Sarah? Because cabbage doesn't feature that.
Not to me. In Caribbean culture or African culture. So I don't know who's made up this cabbage dish. But anyway, so they have, and they're going to roll it out, and the kids are going to hate it because it's cabbage, and then people are going to think that's what Black people eat, and that's probably extreme. But I don't want people to think. It's a bit like the Kwasi Kwarteng thing. That annoys me as well, because I just feel that it's just. Anyway, no.
Go there, Sarah, because I actually wrote it down as one of the things that have happened this month. Please go there with the sacking of the ex-chancellor,
I just think, I just feel that it's kind of, it makes racism even worse. I feel like it encourages it, because now we have a man that's made a gross mistake, but he is a Black man. And so now it's almost like, let's all hate on Kwasi. So let's all hate on Black men. So I don't know. I think that's okay, though, because we're hating on Kwasi Kwarteng. But it's not okay, actually, really, at all. It's not okay that Kwasi did what he did. It's not okay about the mini budget, but it's also not a free pass to hate on Black men just because that one Black man made a massive error. It's not all
He
right.
actually implemented the prime minister's policies, and she sacked him for it. But he should have known a poisoned chalice when he saw one. So I have no sympathies. I had a large whiskey to celebrate because I thought, look at that clownery. It didn't even last a month.
Didn't. But they were friends, weren't they?
They were
friends.
sneaky links too.
Were
So,
they?
you know.
No.
Yes, I read that
Were
in an
they?
article that they were sneaky link at
Oh
one
my
point.
God.
Uh-huh.
She said,
So
"Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so upset. I don't want to do this." And he didn't seem to really like, oh, whatever. Like, I didn't realise that was one of her exes.
Yeah. And he actually was called a superficial black by Rupert Huck, who's a Labour MP, and she was suspended for saying that because he went to private school and and the way he speaks says he's a superficial black. He's not really black. Again. Right. That lumping into stereotypes, we must all sound one way. Do you remember episode 2, ladies?
Yes. Absolutely. I was going to say, well, if he is, then I'm superficial black as well. And I've got a problem with that.
And that's why she was suspended. Black. That's what she said. He's superficially black. He's not really black. And this is an Asian woman who didn't also call Patel and Braverman superficially Asian. Notice she didn't go for them. Her own people, but she came for a black man. And you're right. It just brings such a pile-on.
And why is she qualified to determine who's superficially black and authentically black?
Exactly.
I'll just say something very rude in a minute. I'm going to let you go, Edie.
It's the anti-blackness in all of these statements that make me gag at Black History Month. I think, stop it. If people want to learn, they're going to learn. Those who don't want to learn, they're never going to read the history. So, yeah. So are we moving on, ladies? Sarah, you look done out here.
Yeah, let's move on because I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. It's going to be very, very rude about the Prime Minister.
Then, of course, we had in the last 2 months maybe a real negative reaction to Halle being cast as Ariel because apparently Black mermaids don't exist. 1.2 million, I think, dislikes on YouTube when the trailer ran. Go on, Karen.
Okay. Mermaids don't exist. My daughter was like, hold on. They're saying that it's impossible for her to be a black man. Mermaids aren't real. Hello?
Yeah.
What is going on?
I know. But this is how racist the world is, that we cannot even exist in fiction. Like, it's not possible. One of the funniest tweets I saw in response to that was, for how many of our ancestors you threw over into the sea, are you really surprised there is a black mermaid?
That's awful.
But yeah, this is a foolishness that comes through on a daily, not just in October. So yeah, Black History Month, no, it's done for me. Close it down, stop it. Get it as part of everyday life. And then, of course, my what in the world. I have 2, ladies. I have 2. And one of them, I think, is more cultural than the other and hopefully opens up a little bit more discussion on how we were raised and the ideas and the attitudes we were raised with around food. In fact, I am going to go to that one and I may come back to the tweets about Lizzo's body after. But I saw a tweet a couple of weeks ago that really disturbed my spirit, really, really disturbed my spirit and made me feel really sad for Black people in England particularly. Someone tweeted that they went to a bakery in London, which is famous for its bakes. It's so good, you could slap your mother. Good, right? But then tagged on to say, the shop doesn't like Black people, are openly racist, and will be hostile to them while serving them.
Wow.
And I'm like, and you're eating there? Oh, but the food slaps, they said. And lots of people were replying in the comments about how good the food was. I'm like, but you're eating from your enemy. You're literally swallowing hate from your enemy. I don't know about you ladies, but when I was growing up, you could not go to your parents' friends' houses and say yes to a plate of food, even if you're starving. You better say no. Because their attitude is, you're going to shame me and make out like I didn't feed you, coming here to eat a whole plate of food. Even if you're dying and frothing at the mouth, you better say no. But you can have a glass of water. So to eat from my enemy is just the most bizarre thing ever. Karen, what say you?
So this is interesting. The first thing is, my eldest daughter was quite like that. Without me even having to say anything, she was very dubious about eating from anyone. She's quite particular. She wants to know how things are made. And if it doesn't look cleanly, that's a no-no for her. So I didn't really have that problem where she'd go to anyone's house and just kind of eat. So I know exactly what you mean. So if I went to an establishment, shop, restaurant, wherever, and they were unpleasant towards me, and I knew that, well, whether it was to do with my race or not, if they were rude to me, I can't think of anything that would make me want to go back. No matter, I think the food would no longer slap because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it because of the service I'd received. So I don't understand that. I don't see how you could continue to patronize somewhere that is rude to you. So that's my thought. I wouldn't want to spend my money there, you know?
Yeah, I agree, Karen. I agree. When I was younger, I went to people's houses and a bit the opposite, because I have two white parents, but the opposite. I was told whatever they served, I must eat it. People's houses. As I've got older now, I'd say I'm now like that, where I'm incredibly picky. You know, even if there's cake someone's brought in and stuff, I don't like that because I don't know if their hands are clean. They've been scratching their asses and doing the cooking. Dogs have licked the plates. There's dirty people that let dogs lick their plates after they've eaten their food.
Or you're stroking the cat and then go straight back to mixing the cake.
Because I don't know, because I'm washing my hands sometimes in the bathroom at work, and there's people coming out and they're not washing their hands. So I don't even know.
Nasty.
Yeah. So now it's like I'm incredibly picky who I would eat from. When I was younger, I was just told to eat it and don't be rude.
Right.
So that was.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the bakery thing. I agree with you, Karen. The bakery thing. It's like, no, I'm sorry. If someone's rude and disrespectful to me when I'm buying something from them, then I won't buy anything from them then. Because why am I going to put money in the pockets of someone that's disrespectful?
Who hates me. And they all agree it's because they're black. Because when they go in with their white counterparts, it's a very different service. They know.
I don't see why you'd
eating
want
from your enemy. I'm like, have you not given up on yourselves? I mean, like, even from a spiritual place, the idea that someone could juju you through food. You know how much people get catch through food? Because them belly too long. That's what we say in Jamaica. When your belly long, you get catch. So therefore, eating, that's a sacred thing. You have to be very careful who you eat from because they will cook something for you. And now what?
I just think if you're
about the food slap.
If you're happy to go to a place where people treat you like crap and you're happy to eat the food, then I feel like you're the same person that would stick in a relationship where people treat you like crap.
Maybe I think you must hate yourself.
Yeah, you don't respect yourself then.
No, no amount of food could slap for me to eat from someone who is openly showing me, I don't like you.
That's right.
I don't want you in my establishment. But here, take it as your pain. Ugh! No, sir. It will not be me poisoned because people hate me. Nope. But I'm wondering what is lost of this then in translation generationally. So, Sarah, yours was different, but you don't invite your daughter to then eat everywhere she goes. And
no way, I'll tell her. She's different than me. I think I brought her up, she's a bit more like me now, even with public. Right. I have a massive issue with public toilets. I always have my whole life. And swimming pool floors. I've got almost an OCD to the point of I will tell her, go to the toilet before we leave the house, and depends where we're going. If we're going to like a shopping centre, I'll tell her. And then we're telling her when she was like 3 years old or something, you go to the toilet now because I'm telling you, I will not take you to the toilet in town. It is not happening. I will literally take you home to go to the toilet. You'll not touch that toilet. It's disgusting. And I think now she's a bit like, ugh. So I think she'll say, oh, that's not very nice. It's a bit dirty, isn't it? So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but she's unlike me as a child. I was aware that people were unclean, but as I've got older, I've been incredibly more picky. I've watched people. I thought, you haven't washed your hands and you've used the bathroom, and you work in the kitchens. Therefore, I can't eat anything from here anymore. Because I know you've touched it and you've touched your... Ugh. You know what? Let's just go and be Muslim and wash our parts after using the toilet.
I do.
Storm me a B-day. I will watch that stuff. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's just anyway. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah, my children are very, as they say in Jamaica, scornful.
Yes.
And yeah, I remember as a child, I used to sort of levitate over any toilet that wasn't our own.
yeah, exactly. I told Naya how to do it too.
My mum would hold me, you know. So my kids have been raised like that. We don't.
Filth.
And like I say, my eldest, she's something else. She's worse than me. She doesn't like it. And because she can cook, she cooks really well. Mm-hmm. She'd sooner make her own. And she's good at it. So yeah, we're very, very funny and picky about where we go. Yeah. So I don't think that would happen to us, to be fair. No.
I wanted to ask, because I grew up in Jamaica, and I know that's still a thing in Jamaica. I know it is.
What's that?
The idea of eating from people's house, that you're going to shame your parents if you say yes, even if you're hungry. It's relaxed a little bit, but it's still very much passed on. Don't eat at everybody's house. Well, don't eat every time you're offered.
It's also like, do you know what's really funny? So when my eldest we went, I think it was an event at nursery. So they came around, they offered her, I don't know what it was, like cookies or biscuits, whatever it was. It was like I think it was a play we were watching. Anyway, so she said, no, thank you, no, thank you. But her friend said, yes, please, and had something. Oh my gosh, her mum was so upset. Her mum was like, why can't you be like Jade and say no, thank you?
Oh,
Maybe she wants them to see it. But my daughter, no, she's always been like it. She's just a really, and I think it's not that I've ever said to them, you can't have something. But it's not nice to be, I guess it's greed, isn't it? I guess it comes across as being greedy. It comes across as if, you know, you haven't had sufficient at home. It's a poor reflection on my parenting. No, and it isn't. But I think everything in moderation. So I do get that. Rightly or wrongly. I'm not saying it's right for parents to say that, but I guess you don't want your kid to just be out and sort of pigging out everything, do you?
No way. No, and not even, and even the intention, because what my mum was saying as well is the intention behind someone feeding you. You have to be careful of what you are ingesting, because those who bad mind and want bad things for you, they will feed you. Your enemy will feed you as much as your friend will feed you. And because you can never be sure of the intention, only eat at your yard. Right? And I'm wondering what has been lost in translation in this generation, that not only are they not eating at them yard, they are actually happy to eat from the enemy's table. What have we lost? Are we done out here? Is this it? Why? I was just so disappointed that this is where we're at, that we could happily eat from someone who hates us. No, sir. That's why we can't progress. But something for me has been lost culturally in translation. Maybe we don't have to be so rigid, but maybe we can be a little bit more discerning.
But the same would apply for me if I went to a shop that's black owned and they were rude. I wouldn't go there either.
I'm the same.
Me neither.
I'm the same. No,
I mean, the fact that someone's racist, that's another element, isn't it, right? But if someone is rude to me and makes me feel unwelcome, they will never get my money.
I agree.
So that would be irrespective of race. The reason why they were rude, the fact is they're rude for my money, I'm going to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'll go somewhere else, because the thing is, we have choice. You know, it's not the thing we don't have choice. So
right.
So at least we agree, and maybe we can bring that back. And I would love to hear from our listeners who might have a different experience of and around food and how they were brought up on what to eat, where to eat, who from to eat. And yes, the spiritual aspect of food as something you ingest in your body and you're swallowing it. So let's think about why you're eating it. I'd love to hear from the listeners.
And the last thing I was going to say about that is that my mum used to always say, if you knew where that came from, you may not even want to eat it. No, seriously, because there are programs, haven't there, of people preparing food. I've seen like, drivers, I don't know, Just Eat, whoever, delivery drivers, and what they do to the food
Yep.
en route.
Mhm.
Seriously,
Lord.
I mean, yeah. So we do have to be careful. And I guess if you really knew, I mean, I heard about a bakery, what they did with the dough.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Seriously. So you do have to be, and really, do we know? I try to go for places that are maybe like a chain where
Mhm.
they're accountable to kind of
Good
a
luck.
larger, well, and would it make any difference? Maybe I would say possibly not, but that's just my thinking. But it's hard, isn't it? I think the only sure thing is if you make it yourself.
I think so.
And
Yeah.
eat from people you do know and trust.
I was going
Not
to say,
just
because
everybody.
I wouldn't want Naya to go to anywhere like family's house and stuff and say, or you guys something, and her to say no, because she kind of knows that she knows full well that when we go to someone's house that we know, that I've told her, look, you are to eat the food, you're to try the food, okay? Because she can be very picky recently. God, away from me. You're to try the food, even if then thing I won't make her eat. I won't make her eat fish because we have fish and she's traumatized the thought of eating her pets, basically. She just won't. She says they're beautiful and she will not eat. So you're not going to have to eat spotty. And she actually gets almost cries if you talk about cooking fish. She just can't do it. And turkeys. Turkeys is one of her favorite animals as well. And I won't force her to eat anything. But if we go to someone's house and they have fish, I'll say, look, she doesn't eat fish. And if there's turkey, she can have the rest of the food without the turkey. So I want her at least to try when it comes to family. And, I wouldn't want her to go to someone's house that I know well and refuse to eat because I'd find that rude.
She'll probably trust you though, won't she? She'll probably do what you do. So if you eat, she'll know that it's okay. Do you think?
She'll try. She'll try. But I know at Christmas, because she doesn't eat turkey, she doesn't eat fish, in my partner's house, and she's like, she doesn't like rice. I said, you haven't tried jollof yet, though. You tried jollof. She goes, what is that? She's like, that rice and peas. I said, it's a bit different than rice and peas, babe, but you can try it. So yeah. But I just want her to try. So I agree with you. But if it's a random person's house, not so sure. A snack's all right, like crisps or something, that kind of thing. If we pick her up,
different,
yeah.
So, ladies, the big one that caught my eye this week was a tweet from Kanye West about Lizzo. Now, I know we can all agree the man is struggling with mental health. Like, if he had any good friends, they would have him on his meds and in thrice weekly therapy. That's what a good friend would do. But no, he's still out here with a mic. So he sent out a tweet. Now, it was unnecessary because he wasn't being interviewed about Lizzo, okay? He was being interviewed for something completely different. And he was asked, what was he asked? I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the tweet here. He said media organizations promote her unhealthy weight and she needed to lose weight. He says, let's get aside from the fact whether it's fashion and vogue, which it's not, or if someone thinks it's attractive. To each his own. It's actually clinically unhealthy. Now, in response, Lizzo, who is on tour in Canada, said, I feel like everybody in America got my name in their mouth for no reason. I am minding my fat, black, beautiful business. And I understand her frustration because earlier Aries Spears, a comedian, also tried to fat shame her publicly, talking about, again, health. And I'm like, you lot are so disingenuous. You're not concerned about her health. You're not her doctor. You don't know her health. So is this about health? Aries Spears' comment was, he can't get over the fact that she looks like the shit emoji. She has a beautiful face, but a terrible body. So, ladies, Let's talk.
Wow. I'm actually speechless because there's comedy and there's comedy, right? I think he crossed the line. I think. I wouldn't find that funny. I think she gave the right response in what she said. And I think you're right. Are they actually thinking about her health? I'm sure they're not. And maybe they don't find her attractive, which is fine. You don't have to find her attractive. But I'm not sure why they took it upon themselves to be so openly, publicly rude and critical. I think that was uncalled for. That's what I would say.
Yeah, the shit emoji thing, I was kind of shocked about that. I think if they think then that's funny, or if this comedian guy thinks that's funny, then I feel like he's lost it slightly himself. Why they're talking about her when it wasn't about her, I find bizarre. Kanye West himself, I was just saying to Kay earlier, has gained a hell of a lot of weight recently. So he's definitely not one to talk about people that are larger. He needs to look at himself. And I feel that, is there a part, maybe it's therapists here talking, is there a part of himself that he hates so much that he's projecting onto his thoughts about Lizzo? Because what's Lizzo to do with any of this? It wasn't even about Lizzo, you know? So I wonder if this itself is actually about Kanye. Is it about how he feels, how he hates himself so much? I just think it's just like Karen said, they didn't have to find her attractive, but no one's even asking them to. You know, why they had to be openly rude about her, you know, that's just, it says a lot more about them than it does about her. I think she responded appropriately. And I think this is about Kanye's inner struggle with his own weight. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I don't like Kanye West either. And I was just saying to Kay and Karen earlier, Kanye West was the puppet of Donald Trump. And he was sitting in that front row, you know, with Donald Trump. Anyway, I was going to say something very rude then. Donald Trump's up his. But that's what he was doing. You know, why they had, I mean, what's this? Kanye West in the front row dancing, oh, Donald Trump. You know, that was the man that did that. So I don't know why anyone's even listening to Kanye West anymore. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe he feels like he's not listened to, so therefore he must say something so outrageous that he is listened to. And if that's what he's thinking, then God help him. That's my 2 pence on it.
So I agree with both of you. It angered me because I again, what are we doing to each other? Black men attacking Black women publicly like this. Shaming? Why? You've come from a Black woman. What makes us open season and target for everybody's projections? And you're right, Sarah, it probably is a projection of his own self-hate. Aries Spears himself is a big man, you know, looks about 18 months pregnant. So not also in a position to talk about Lizzo's weight, but then they kind of frame it in under the guise of health. And that's rubbish. You're not concerned about her health. It feels like they've bought into the Eurocentric model of beauty, which is you've got to be slim. I remember when
though. It's like Big Nasty telling someone, you know, it's time you lost a few pounds. It's the popcorn and the kettle black. Kanye West and this comedian, two large African American, as they call it, men saying this to Lizzo. It makes no sense. These are not gym boys. These are not buff men.
And unprovoked. So what is it about her body that they see that stirs such a reaction in them that they feel okay to put it out there on social media as well? Just say you hate Black women. I don't like the whole idea that you can just say what you want just because you're famous. No, you can't. And in actual fact, if we're honest with ourselves, at some point we have also bought into the slim looks good, fat is ugly. I have. I did. We're conditioned that way, but that's very Eurocentric. When I was growing up, skinny girls couldn't get no love in Jamaica. They even made songs about it. Them no want no kukum kum. Them want buff buff. So the bones knocking, knock them over with your weight. It was all about being round, and that was sexy. And I felt super sexy growing up and powerful. And after a while, I didn't. Then it shifted to this distorted body image, which only suits one group of women who, great, they're really good at staying skinny, and that's okay. But genetically, that's not how we're built.
I mean, sorry to cut you out, but I was just thinking, but was Kanye West not married to Kim Kardashian, who has had a lot of, I don't really follow them if I'm fair, to be honest, but she had a lot of body modification. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, right? She did, and she's removing it now.
And so that's a whole nother podcast in itself, isn't it? I mean, she has added things that are, I guess people would say, typically sort of more black Afro features, I guess. Yeah. So I'm not sure why he feels the need to discredit someone when he was with his wife.
I think he means that Kim's still slim. So even if you have a large ass or whatever, then as long as you're small.
Yes, but she's done that to herself. She wasn't naturally necessarily.
She wasn't naturally.
She wasn't naturally. I mean, I don't even remember what she was like now. I don't remember.
No, I don't.
Well, have a look at her recent, because she's taken out the butt implants.
Oh, has she?
And I think she's taken out the boobs as well.
Right. Didn't know she had the boobs in. I didn't know she had anything like that.
We're obvious.
But I just think it's unfair for him to comment when you were with a woman who had so much done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of just confused as to why he feels.
It's unfair to comment anyway. I feel like Kanye West is sitting there. At one point, Kanye West looked, I don't like the man, but body-wise, he was in a situation where I think he was quite muscular. I remember years back, he was. Now, I saw a picture of him the other day. He has gained loads of weight. So I just don't understand what his issue is. And now we know that the comedian is also a larger man. So they're okay to sit there, are they? You know, and as large men, commenting on somebody else whose weight. It's a bit like Big Nasty saying, you know, you do need to lose some weight. I mean,
have any of them
look at yourself?
Come on now. Has any of them ever said to Fat Joe he needed to lose weight?
It.
No, probably haven't.
They didn't.
No,
they wouldn't.
You didn't hear them out there tweeting about fat rappers were male or fat artists were male. It's the misogyny in it that it just makes me cross.
Like Biggie Smalls, sounds like Biggie. You need to lose when he was around. Biggie, you need to lose some weight.
That would have gone down Biggie. Well.
Way too fat.
That's true.
Yeah, that wouldn't have gone down at all, would it? You know?
No, I wouldn't dare. Because women's bodies are meant to be aesthetically pleasing to the male gaze and nothing else. That the idea is that Lizzo should look a certain way for them to appreciate her artistry. It's petty and ridiculous. So I have a book on my bookshelf, which I have never finished reading, called Fat is a Feminist Issue by Susie Orbach. Have any of you heard of it?
No, I've heard of Susie Orbach, but not that book.
So I've had this book for a while now. I'm just going to read a little excerpt to kind of contextualize what I meant about the dishonesty about it's her health and that they want to promote healthy bodies. So the blurb, she writes, Fat is a Feminist Issue talks about our lived experience, how preoccupied we could become with eating, not eating, and avoiding fat. Emotionally schooled to see our value as both sexual beings for others and midwives to their desires, and I love that. We found ourselves often depleted and empty and caught up in a kind of compulsive giving. Eating became our source of soothing. We stopped our mouths with food, and I proposed we could learn to exchange food when we weren't hungry for words. So far, so good. Many started to challenge the homogeneity of what constituted beauty. But we never saw the backlash coming or the ingenious forms it would take, from the now rather innocent, because you're worth it, to the downright nefarious practices of industries that were growing rich on the making of body insecurity. And that was before social media. She goes on to say, the story of the past 40 years. So it was 40 years ago she wrote this book. And it's grim, she says. It's a story of malice, of greed, of mendacity, not content with destabilizing the eating of many Western women and exporting body hatred all over the world as a sign of modernity. Health reporter Alicia Mundi coined the term Obesity Inc. She set about to create new so-called disease entities that would medicalize and pathologize people's relationship to food and to their bodies. Goes on to say, in January, we learned that 1 in 3 women in the UK won't go for their smear tests. Why? Because they feel so bad about their bodies.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it looks like an innocent tweet, but actually, what are you saying? You're thinking there, Karen. I can see the wheels turning over.
Definitely turning. The thing is, this is a huge topic, right? There's just so much in that. There's lots and lots of layers. I can only speak. Okay, so for myself personally, we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
I feel better when I exercise and I maintain a certain weight that is healthy and feels comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's very personal, I think. I'm not particularly health conscious, but I do try to eat well. So I love to eat fruit and veg. So that's me. But different people in different shapes and sizes. Lizzo seems very happy in her own skin. She's very confident. She, is a very successful artist. So who am I to make comments about someone else? I do try and stay away from social media and that kind of stuff. I know we're talking about it tonight, but that's kind of a platform I don't get into for that reason. I work in a school where, there are 3 girls at the moment who are suffering with anorexia. There is one girl who's so unwell and so poorly, I should say, she is unable to come to school because they are really fearful that she could collapse.
Organ shut down.
Yeah. So it's something I take really seriously. It's a real problem. And I hope that I encourage my girls to be very healthy and to, look after themselves and be proud of themselves and embrace their bodies and who they are. And it's really unhelpful, I think, when people say these things. Yeah, I just think it's not helpful, is it? It's not helpful. Yeah, that's my thought.
I agree a bit more with you, Karen. I have an issue with the men and what they said about Lizzo. I have an issue with that because that was not what was being discussed. It was just rude, regardless if it's Lizzo or somebody else. It's rude. For me, myself, I know that, kind of full disclosure, I know that about a month and a half ago, I was quite a bit heavier than I am now. That's only because I've followed the keto diet, and that's not for me to lose weight, but that's for me. I think it must be gluten intolerance. Like when I was eating rice and potato and it was physically hurting me. So I thought, let me just do this keto. And I've done it, and this is the longest I've done it for. And the weight comes off. So I have lost quite a bit. So do I feel good? I do feel better when I am smaller. It sounds, but that's not about looking at anybody else. It's just in my clothes, I feel better because I don't have the bloat of the gluten or the bread and what's it called? No, I don't eat a lot of cheese. The bread and the bread and the rice and all that. I just don't want to eat it. And so that it's not a weight loss thing. It's just I don't want the pain in my belly. So I do feel better not eating that. And that makes me end up losing weight. So I'll just continue doing that. But a bit like you said, Karen, I want my daughter to be confident and proud of her body. And I have a problem with people talking about other people's bodies like that. You know, whether, you know, whatever I'm a size 12 to 14 and somebody else is a 20 and somebody else is an 8. What gives any of us the right to talk about each other? I think that's the problem I had. And furthermore, the fact, and I know I've said it like 500 times, but furthermore, the fact that Kanye and this comedian were larger men. And Kanye, I mean, I don't know if the comedian's always been a larger man, that's one thing, but Kanye has recently gained. So it's not like he's always been like that. That bothers me even more than someone that's always been larger. You know, so anyway, that's my 2 pence. Look after yourself, as long as you're healthy and do what makes you feel good. That's what's important. It doesn't matter about people's size. It's about how it makes you feel rather than just the scales, you know?
Did any of you see Lizzo's documentary, Lizzo's Big Girls, when she was doing the search for dancers to accompany her on her tour?
No, I didn't see it.
I watched a lot of it, and let me tell you, she's not unfit. And those girls can move. They do far more exercise than I do. Lizzo moves, and she has stamina. She can go for hours. So in reflecting on the different bodies we have in society, I have been skinny, I have been big, I am the biggest I've been now. I can't say that my health was linked to me being slimmer. It wasn't actually. So it's an area of sensitivity for me, because I remember my doctors, no matter what I went in for, it would be like, you need to lose weight, before they even spoke to me. And I remember challenging one doctor and I said, okay, run my bloods. Tell me how unhealthy I am. And they came back absolutely fine with a little bit of a raised cholesterol. And I said, give me a year and I'll bring that down. Lifestyle. I did. He was so shocked. And I said, yeah, but you always look at me and say you need to lose weight because I don't look. It's to the eye. I feel like it has become much more of a visual appeal than a healthy body and being healthy in the body that you're in. From my work in the hospice, a body that hasn't got disease is a body that's already winning, because I've seen really slim people die from cancer and bigger people die from cancer. The one thing they both have in common, they would rather not have disease in their bodies. At that point, it doesn't matter what size you are. What matters is the body's capacity to heal itself. And it didn't happen for some, you know? So, I wanted us to talk about that tonight, because we do have listeners who are young women, who are young men. And also maybe I would like the young men to kind of think about how they view women's bodies as well, and what they recoil from, how comes. To do that deeper thinking, rather than just saying, I don't want to see Lizzo's ass out on stage. Well, don't go to her concert, dude. It is so simple. Don't watch her programs. Don't watch her videos. Don't go to her concerts. But then don't publicly disrespect her like that as well. So we have a lot of issues in our community as Black people that sometimes I think, will we ever work it out? Will we ever come together as one and just learn to love each other?
Do you think that is specifically related to Black women, though? Do you think they would have said something different had the woman been white?
Yeah, because there are other fat white singers, if you want to look at body comparison type, who they've never made those tweets about. All artists are not slim, but they've never felt the need to get on Twitter and Facebook and disparage those women.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm just wondering if it's because she's on a similar platform to them, because it's perhaps that genre of music that they're all in. I just wondered if that was the sort of, reason why they chose her as opposed to someone else who might sing country and western, or do you know what I mean? That's what I was thinking.
Look at Adele. I think Adele, they didn't speak about her so much when she was larger, but Adele got so much more love when she lost weight. People are, how beautiful is Adele? She's so beautiful. I thought, but she's the same person as before, though. She's just slimmer. So you suddenly like her music when she lost weight.
Yeah. And also, Adele dressed very differently to Lizzo. I think they're offended and affronted that Lizzo dares to love herself and think she's sexy and wears sexy clothes, as opposed to dressing in a sack. So that's also, you don't get to be sexy. I need to tell you what sexy is, and that's not sexy. That's unhealthy. Again, unless you're a clinician, you don't get to make that call.
That is really interesting, right? Because I think that's about personal taste. And and you're quite right. I think you said something earlier where you said it's cultural. So I was reading up about, I think it's Burkina Faso country in Africa where the women are really celebrated because men like their women larger. Because it's a sign of wealth and that that they're healthy and they can bear children and all that kind of stuff. So they feed. I don't know if it's the same country, so please no one write in and say I've got it wrong. But they feed the girls, I think it's camel's milk when they're little, to kind of plump them up. So I remember Oprah Winfrey, she was talking about this and she said, I need to go and live there because
then I wouldn't fight my body the whole time.
Exactly. But I think you're right. I think it is to do with sort of having a Eurocentric view of what is beautiful. What is that? What is the right body? And who says? Who gets to say that, Lizzo's body is not beautiful? I think there are going to be...
You're right. I saw a documentary earlier on about South Sudan. It was really interesting. And the men, there was some South Sudanese men, they were saying to the person doing this documentary, the most important thing for a woman they want is someone tall. We thought, huh? They said the taller the woman, the more cows would be given to the family, and men would literally fall at their knees for the height of the woman. I thought, I've never heard that.
No.
But the women, they'd ideally want a woman that's as tall as possible. And the taller, the more cows will be offered to the family to try and gain her hand in marriage. One man said he found his wife. She was a very, very, very tall woman. And he had to produce like 80 cows to her father in order to win her over. And when the 80th cow was given to her father, he agreed. And they had to be long-horned cows, which are really expensive. Yeah. But the main thing,
I like this.
The main thing for a Sudanese woman to be beautiful, he said, is height. It's height.
You see?
So,
that's what I'm saying. It's subjective, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's, Lizzo will have her fans and she will have admirers and she'll have people who find her really attractive and beautiful. She'll have people who won't. I'm not going to be for everyone, am I? Regardless of what my body type is, I will have my little fan club. As you will have yours, Sarah and Kay. And I think I try not to be like anyone else. I'm just me. So whatever works for me is, and I think that's the thing. I think people have to be really comfortable in their own skins, and it can be really difficult. I was watching Strictly. Show my age now, but
I love Strictly actually, except when the voting goes wayward.
Yeah. So there's a woman on there. I can't remember what her name is. And she is, I would say, a much more sort of voluptuous woman. And I think she's partnered with another woman.
She's partnered with Karen. She's a comedian. Jade.
That's it.
Yeah.
I guess that pairing will be less traditional than perhaps other pairings have been in the past, because I guess traditionally the woman would be the one to be lifted. So I don't know if they'll change the dynamics of that or what they'll do, but I just thought it was really interesting because actually they've got the contestants on there this time are quite different. So the reason I'm mentioning that, the point is, in some fields, if you're, for some things, if you're a figure skater and a man needs to lift you, let's just say, maybe you would have to have a certain body type, right? Because depending on what you're doing. But as a comedian, if she's happy with the way she is, then who am I to judge, or who is it for anyone else to comment? So I just think it's really subjective, and you're right. It is very dangerous when we start fat shaming or body shaming, or having really unhealthy opinions. But I guess really what I would say to my girls, for example, on this subject is just be really secure in who you are and love you. So if people do say things, water off a duck's back, like that's their opinion. You can't please everyone. Please yourself.
Definitely. I want my daughter to love the skin she's in, no matter what size it is. Because we know weight fluctuates. You might have periods of weight gain in your teens and your puberty years. What you don't want is your child to link their self-esteem so closely to their bodies that they can't love themselves if it doesn't look a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I totally agree. My daughter, at the moment, she's 9. She's slim and toned, and I'm very aware that I'll have some mums and things. Oh, she's lovely and slim. I don't like that. I don't want any of that. I would never say. I tell her she's beautiful as a whole person. I love this about her personality and that. I never mention body. Never. Because I don't want her to feel, these mums, she's lovely and slim. What? So she can't grow up then? So she feels that she's got to keep the body of a 9-year-old. Because I've known teenagers to be like, my best body was when I was like 10. It's like, yeah, but you're 15.
I've heard that. Yeah. 7 in one case.
Yeah, so I main thing, like you ladies want, I want my daughter to be healthy and love the skin that she's in. That's all that matters. Really it is.
Yeah. I'd like to end on a quote, if I could, from this book, which I will put in the bio, but if you'd like to borrow my copy, yeah, why not? It's a great book. But the end quote is, "The body has become a political project, from rape as a weapon of war to the internal belief that we must be constantly wary about our appetites, to limiting ourselves individually and collectively because so much of our energy is misemployed. We have to act together to find ways through these minefields. There is just too much anguish, too much sorrow. We need more rage, more refusal, and more love."
Very lovely.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kay.
Yeah, that's Susie Orbach's book. So that's it from me for this week. How about you ladies? Any final words? Any final thoughts?
Just love the skin you're in, people. You only have one chance in this incarnation in the body you're in. Just love the skin you're in. Seriously, because you don't want to turn around when you're 85 and hate yourself. It's not worth it. That's my last words on this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, self-love is so important. I think if you don't love yourself, it's very difficult for someone else to love you, I think. So I love me.
Same.
Yeah,
I totally feel myself.
You need to love yourself, because they say the longest relationship you ever have is the one you have with yourself.
Exactly.
And if you don't love yourself, try and love parts of yourself, because if you hate yourself, it's going to be toxic for your children too. It's not going to be possible for your children to love themselves if you hate yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there are things about myself I would change. There are things, and there are some things I can work on, some things I have to accept. But I do love me very much.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So do I. And when you get the Aries spares and the Kanye West of this world, who might want to tell you otherwise. Exactly, Sarah. They can do one. Hop on, jog on. We'll be like Lizzo. We'll mind our black business. In my case, my fat black business. So, ladies, I wanted to give some advance notice as well to the listeners that there will be no new episode in the half term. We are taking a well-earned rest, catch up on the episodes you've missed during the break, and there will be more uploaded to YouTube as we go along, but we will see you next week. So, who's going to do our contact details?
Beautifully Melanated Podcast at gmail.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at Beautifully Melanated Podcast and on YouTube of the same name.
Thanks, Sarah. Oh, by the way, ladies, I do have to tell you this. I did get some feedback in the week. A listener listened to our episode 13 on YouTube, and it was an episode with Elise, and said to message me to say I have learned more about Black women and Black history in this episode than all the years of listening to Black History Month.
Oh, that's so
So,
lovely. I will relay
yeah.
that. I'll tell her that.
So, yes, please do let Elise know. So, yeah, thought I'd share that.
And thank you to the listener for sharing it.
Yeah, and she's a white woman. And she was like, yeah, that helped me a lot.
Oh, that's
like,
interesting.
yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Makes you smile.
Cool.
All
Well, I will
right.
see you next week. See you next week, ladies.
All
See you
right,
next week,
bye.
guys.
Yeah, beautifully.